for joining us today on City Talk on the Road. I'm Maria Sorreo. Today, you will meet members of the Emergency Preparedness Committee and learn how they help to keep the city of Rancho Palos Verdes safe and prepared. Today, we are talking about the Emergency Preparedness Committee. Tell us about the committee and the goal of the committee.
Yeah, so our Emergency Preparedness Committee, we also call it the EPC, so you may hear that a few times over, is essentially our bridge between emergency management and readiness and our community in two senses. In one, they volunteer to hold EPC booths and develop monthly messages on emergency preparedness to help get our community ready for anything from earthquakes to wildfires to landslides and name the hazard.
Yeah.
Um, that's one end of it. The other end of it is, as members of the public, having them take a look at some of the materials we develop, like our plans, like our outreach material, our campaigns, our projects. It's helpful because we get the fresh eyes and we get the community's perspective, and we're public servants. Our goal is to serve the community, so having their perspective is really vital, especially when we're talking about something so important like emergency management.
For you guys, it's not just we have these flyers. Talk about some of the events that you've done
Yeah.
because this is a very committed and active group.
This is an amazing group. And I'll bring up the events we've done, but I also want to bring up the projects that they are responsible for starting. So on one end, we have a wildfire event, an equine event. Both of those were pushed. They were ideas that were already around, but they were pushed hard by the EPC. And when they came about, they were ready to help us. They came early, set up. They hosted booths at all of these events for us. We had our Fire Hazard Severity Zone Information Center, our home hardening workshop. So, and then we have our annual October Prepared Peninsula Expo as well. So they lay a hand in all of that and have kind of helped propel some of the new ones, like our annual Equine Ready event and our wildfire resource event. And then on the other end, they're pushing a lot of these different projects. So they came up with a home hardening project. So we're working with the school district to try to implement that. They are the reason we have an emergency radio now on the peninsula. They championed that. They provided subject matter expertise because these are members of our community. And as I'm sure you know, our community is a very, very well put together community. We have people from all different realms of the world, from engineering to communications to name it, we have it. Our community's well informed. They're educated and they're passionate. And I think that really shows up within the EPC as kind of the representatives of this community. And so we have these projects simply because they came around and provided the ideas and gave us the push we needed to get them done. The city council and our city management are responsible for selecting our members, but they do come and they apply. And they may apply for just our committee, they may apply from other committees and have ours as a first or second or third option. But they're really just passionate community members who come apply, get selected by our city council and city management, do an interview, kind of go through almost a job application, right? Even though these are volunteers, they're not getting paid to do this, they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, but they go through the process of any employment process that you would typically go through. And we're getting 2 new members today.
And then how long do they usually serve for?
So it's a 3-year term, and they can reapply, and we have 3 of our members reapplied, so we had 5 up this year.
Wow.
And so 2 new members and 3 reapplied, so you really can see the dedication in these members.
Being a part of this and leading it, what surprises you the most about some of the input that you get from people?
I am inspired by our community, by our members and just our residents as a whole, with the amazing ideas they have. The questions they have, they're extremely insightful and well thought out. The suggestions they have that are just about the same. It just, I see a competent, passionate, loving community who continues to you almost are shocked with how amazing and consistent that is. And I think from this committee and just my whole time working here has been that experience. And It's even though I expect it now, it's kind of like our views, right? It's like it's beautiful and it shocks you every time you see it and it just doesn't get old. This committee is open to the public, just like all of our committees, and I really strongly suggest people listen in or come in or listen online. You can go to our city agenda page and you can find the videos and see the agendas that we have up so that you can see what's going on within our community. Because emergency readiness, it affects us all. And even if you ignore it, it's going to affect you. So it's better to be in the know than not to. And I think having a dedicated committee to emergency preparedness helps drill that home because the risk exists and there's several risks that are large. And having a group that's dedicated to that and who brings up things that we don't typically address, like sheltering in place, like hazardous material events, things that are less likely to happen, so they slip our minds.
Right.
But with having this committee, having me in this position, having this dedication to preparedness, to resilience, to disaster management that I think the city has continued to push. It brings it to the forefront and it makes sure that these things don't get forgotten and that they get addressed so that when something happens, we can quickly respond, we can quickly recover, and we can continue to build back better and continue to grow.
I started with the committee in 2019, so I'm starting my third term. They're always looking for people that are interested in emergency preparedness in any form. I don't have to stay here forever. I'm retired LA County Fire and Sheriff's Department, did over 35 years in safety service, East Coast and West Coast. I have quite a bit of experience. I got a lot of exposure to a lot of fantastic things during my career. And rather than let all that information in my head just go to waste, I volunteered with the city to work on the Emergency Preparedness Committee, which is a broad mandate committee that covers a lot of different subjects having to do with emergency preparedness, from everything having to do with every sort of weather disaster you can think of, to crowd incidents, to educating the public for preparedness issues, trying to get people on board with getting prepared for the what ifs, in case we have the big earthquake, or we have the local power outage, or we have the local water system failure, or all those things that we constantly seem to have up here that everyone's surprised about. It's like, you had a what, where? So that's roughly it. We do a lot of outreach. I work a lot of the booth events at the public events that the city puts on, and I work with the various HOAs to try to disseminate information on preparedness and getting people dialed in on what we have to offer. The biggest thing for the adults is we're pushing the communications issues. We're trying to get everybody aware to use the current technology so that they stay abreast of what's happening regarding emergencies, that they're signed up for Alert South Bay, that they understand what it is and how they'll just get notifications from the emergency service providers from all of the South Bay cities from a one-point sign-up, which makes it a lot easier than the way every other city does it. And also that there are certain apps that people should have on their phones that they should really be familiar with, and they're really advantageous to know about, so that they'll be alerted when something's going down somewhere, whether they'd be traveling or at home. And they can also use it as a resource to learn more about certain issues that they're interested in. There's a lot more awareness here because there's a lot of education in the general population base, so people are aware that we have, for instance, traffic issues, and they've all seen the big fires from last year where there were issues getting notifications out, there were issues doing evacuations, and how that relates directly to this type of community on the hill, because they're so similar where those fires happen in here, and how that we, if we're not prepared, can be subject to the same sorts of problems. It's a broad mandate. Emergency preparedness covers everything from what if we have high surf like we have this week, and there are warnings out from the National Weather Service, to getting your emergency kit ready to go in your house, or setting up your communications plan for your family on what to do. Do you have home fire drills with your family, just like the kids do in their schools? There's very good reason for that. We have, like I said, a very broad mandate, covers a lot of different subject matter, so it's easy for people to start getting overwhelmed. So we try to get people to focus on taking it little bites at a time on their emergency preparedness, something that's reasonable for them. Try to work on the most critical things first, like getting your basic go bag ready to go in your car, in your home, at work, at your school area, so that everyone has their own little backpack ready to go with their own emergency footwear. So if something pops off or things go wrong, you're prepared to take care of yourself at least for a couple of days, ideally 3.
So you're a veteran here in the room for the EPC. Tell us what goes on during a meeting.
We talk a lot. No, no,
Okay.
like I said, we have one city staff person that's assigned to coordinate us, and that's Luna Muhammad currently, and she's doing a fantastic job with the information that she's putting together to help the city council be prepared for making decisions and to help promote certain items that we're working on as a committee. We've done everything from, in fact, we have one member walking up right now that was instrumental in getting the local radio system set up. We have an emergency radio system now that's on AM 1680 that we'll soon be putting out public information on. That will be a resource, AM 1680 AM, and that will be a resource in case of emergencies. It's currently running 24/7 as an emergency broadcasting station here on the hill, and it covers all the adjacent cities almost off the hill as far as Carson Street and down to Anaheim Street as far as the local coverage for the broadcast. We've got projects like that. We have a wildfire camera system that's been set up, and we have 4 different cameras scanning different critical areas of the hill for wildfires, and those are set up to operate 24/7 also. Those are monitored by city staff and LA County Fire Department, and those have been instrumental also in detecting early notification detection of wildfire events that we've had to try to prevent something from growing out of control quickly in the area.
So are those the kind of things that you guys will talk about in the meeting or discuss, maybe we should try this, or how does that work?
We take projects from our subcommittees and we try to refine the information on the issue at the subcommittee level, bring that to the committee, and then we have discussion in the committee regarding pros and cons and how we want to approach it. Like right now we're working on how to fine tune the radio system rollout to inform the public about it. Things like that where we have to discuss how we want to present it. Or, for instance, there half dozen different kinds of apps related to emergency preparedness. We're trying to refine it down to we have it down to 3, 4, depending on whether you're in the city or not, that we decided these are the critical ones that are most important for everybody to be aware of and have. That's the sort of thing that we do, refine the product until we can get it so that Luna Muhammad can work with it and present it to the city or work with it as a project so that we can move forward on it and actually make some serious progress on it.
And then tonight I know that you have some new members coming in. What's it like to be a new member, and how does that sort of work?
It's confusing.
Okay.
In fact, because it was a little bit confusing, we actually worked on a project the last couple of months. We called it onboarding, where we basically tried to summarize in a quick fashion for these new members what the responsibilities were and what the functions were of the committee and how it operated at the meetings, and then as a committee member, the sort of the do's and don'ts in a synopsis form, so that they wouldn't be wondering and then run into this issue and then either overstep or do something that was not approved as representative of the city.
So there's so many different things that you are working on, and Luna had mentioned that sometimes it's a conversation that goes back and forth about different ways to do things. So it's kind of a meeting of the minds, it sounds like.
No, that's exactly it. It's a committee,
Yeah.
and we're trying to all contribute our best input so that the committee can produce the best product, so that one, we're trying to minimize the overloading that can happen with a single city staff person that's working with 7 committee members, all with their own opinions. And also, we want to present a really good solid product so that when she introduces it to city council, it minimizes their work, it makes their job easier, so they're not overwhelmed with it.
James, tell us about what it's like to be a member of this committee and what you do.
The members of the EPC are very, very dedicated. We all have a very high passion for emergency preparedness because we understand how important it is to be prepared in the event of an emergency. So, as members of the EPC, we advise the city council and the city on different subjects that pertain to any kind of emergency preparedness. Everything from fires to floods to earthquakes to any natural disaster. The other part of that is we also then try to inform our fellow residents in the city on the best way to stay prepared and be prepared in the event of an emergency. Because the more residents and the more people in our city that are prepared for an emergency, the better off and safer we all will be.
I notice this isn't just something you write down on paper. We see all of the community, we see your committee out at events, home hardening, fire safety, things like that, to really put out there that, hey, this is what we have to offer here. And I think it's so valuable because I have been to 2 home hardening events and learned things that I didn't know. To kind of just talk about that and the importance of doing events like that.
I think events help keep these emergency preparedness issues on a high topic of mind, where we make sure that the priority of everybody thinking about them on a somewhat regular basis lets everybody know that we need to make sure we stay informed. We also need to make sure that we stay informed of different changes. Some of the things that we do as a committee to help that is we have monthly messaging. Our monthly messaging that we put out is very topical when it comes out to the different times of year. For instance, the most recent monthly message was about anti-fireworks and how to stay safe during the heat. So because we are in a heat event recently, these are all things that pertain to our monthly messaging. When we're in the winter, we talk about different rain and cold topics to stay safe during those events.
You know, I know if an earthquake happens, it becomes top of mind. Obviously, we had the fire last year in Malibu and the Palisades. Things actually do happen here in California, and so I think that also kind of brings them to the forefront.
Yes, and they can be scary things to think about. However, if we think about them in advance and we have a plan and we act on those plans if and when things happen, they're not as scary, and you're going to be able to make safe decisions during any kind of emergency.
It also seems like, and lastly, that when you're in with the group and you're all having discussions about different things, there seems to be a kind of symmetry in there. Many of you working fire, former police, in an EPC group, things like that. What is that conversation like?
The conversations that we have are very idea driven, where one person will say something and that'll spur something else that another member might say. And we've had many different things that have come up in random conversation during our meetings that have actually been excellent, great ideas that have actually started to come to fruition and actually happen. And that's all just basically on our conversation, on our ability to talk to each other.
What do you like most about being a part of the group?
I like the fact that I'm able to help spread emergency preparedness. As a first responder myself, I firsthand see the importance of how emergencies can go so much better when people are prepared. And my passion is to help as many people as I can get in the position to where they're prepared and they can stay safe during emergencies.
And that will do it for today's show. We hope that you've learned a little more about your city of Rancho Palos Verdes. I'm Maria Sorreo, and we'll see you next time.